6:33, we'll call the meeting to order, and I don't have anything on the agenda, but we'll start with reports and then discuss any questions about punch list or any other questions that you may have.
Okay, I'll start off with the finances. I just passed out a sheet that we include each month with our monthly report to MSBA, and we've passed out to this group before, but this is our budget in column A. Column B is what's been invoiced to date. So we had a budget of $32.3 million, been invoiced $29 million, 29.1. We have encumbered, so you have contracts for 29.5, almost 29.6. The next couple columns are just how much invoices this past month, how much has been encumbered this past month, so we haven't encumbered anything new this past month. But F and G, columns F and G are related to how much of that money that's been spent is eligible. We won't really know that until we close out with the MSBA, but this is our best guess. So of the 29.1 that has been expended, we're anticipating that 24.5 is going to be eligible for reimbursement. And of that 24.5, we anticipate that you would get reimbursed $15.6 million. So you've been getting reimbursement all along the way. It's just there's a delay and a little bit of a lag from the last submission to the ProPay system. So significantly under budget. The MSBA holds the last 5% of your grant until everything is completely closed. So you have paid all your bills, you have gone through your 10-month commissioning review, and then the myriad of paperwork that it takes to close out these projects. The 10-month commissioning review is really kind of the critical one, because that's the one that is time sensitive, is to get the commissioning agent to come back, take another look at things. But that is going to be this spring.
End of May, beginning of June.
Yeah, and then from then, it's a matter of pulling all the paperwork together, their final report, submitting to the MSBA. You have to submit like 6 weeks before the board meeting to get onto that board meeting. So it's probably not going to be until, if we get that in the spring, we probably wouldn't be until the fall before we could really close things out completely and close everything out with MSBA. And that's probably a best case scenario. If something came up, it's kind of a cumbersome paperwork process. But I don't see a reason at this point why we couldn't do that, but I'm not going to put it in stone either. But all financially, all is good. So we can get into some open issues. I guess that's really why we called the meeting to begin with, I guess. I'm not really sure what's, I think there's a perception issue in town that there are things that aren't being addressed. That's the furthest thing from the truth. There are things that take a while to get resolved. If you think about it, the heating system, for instance, the heat doesn't go on until mid-October. You don't really understand the issues right away. It takes some time. Then you have to come back and troubleshoot. And so it takes some time to live in a building, work through some of the issues. It might be that some people aren't in the loop and don't understand that things are being done to address some items. But you've been occupied since August in the entire building as a whole building. So it's really a relatively short time. So let's see, September, October, November, December, January, 5 months. And essentially to be closed out with your punch list and all open items is pretty, I would say, better than average. But there are some items that are still open. We can go through them if you like. On the punch list side, the biggest issue, and I think John will agree, that there's been an issue with the makeup air unit that's associated with the kitchen hood. Kitchen hood goes on when the stove goes on. exhaust the hot air and cooking gases and greases and different things. But so that the building doesn't become completely negative vacuum, you have this makeup air unit that's supposed to kick on. It kicks on, but it's been tripping so that it's not producing the heat, so you're drawing in this very cold air. So it's been happening sporadically, and when it happens, they come out, they take a look at it, they've tried different things, adjusting settings. Where it stands now is they've ordered a new temperature control module, a fire ring module.
Which they installed today.
Okay, so that's installed today, so we'll have to see how that works. But that seems to have been the biggest issue, and then there's been some kind of a domino of related issues, whether it be a CO issue when that first warm-up of firing off turning on all the kitchen equipment, and if this thing isn't quite working right, there's a spike in a CO level that then immediately dissipates. So when the fire department gets here and takes their monitor and readings, they're not reading anything. So working through some of that stuff, but that seems to be, I don't know, John, if that's your number one biggest issue.
That and the 3 boilers.
Right. Yeah, so there was an issue of how the boilers are staged. The 2 boilers are capable of heating the entire building, even in very cold temperatures. But what they're programmed to do now is that the 3rd boiler, which is your propane boiler, comes on when those boilers get to a certain point. So they're not maxing out, or they're in a sequence. They can change that sequence so that 3rd boiler doesn't come on. So we asked you a question, when was it? We just wanted to verify how the sequence that we're proposing to do. Make sure you're okay with that before we have them make the change. So we're just waiting for you to get back to us and tell us.
Boilers go to 50% of their output, approximately. So how come they're not going higher than their 50%?
It's in the programming.
Right.
So,
And so there was an email from Mike from Hesner
okay.
that we forwarded on with a change in the sequence to have that 3rd one only come on during, if the boiler goes down.
Correct, and that's.
Yeah, so that's what we just need verification from you. That's all. There was an email that went out.
I just want to make sure that you guys understand it before we make the change.
Correct.
Yes, okay, I'll get that to you tomorrow.
All right.
Yeah, is the boiler just running, the propane boiler just really shouldn't be running, that's at this time.
Right.
So I've not heard anything, so there have been heating issues? Is that what you're saying?
No, just
So all
things
the
that-
rooms are standard, they're all
Programming.
no different between one room and another? And the whole
As far as we know, there were originally, when the feet first came on, there were some sensors that weren't working right. That sensor on that wall
This room
wasn't
here,
working
It
right.
was really cold in here, but the system said it was 72. But it was really cold. That thermostat right there, we found it out, took it out, I had my.
You know, in the old days, you could take a look at the damper and say, oh, you know what, the actuator, the arm fell off. Well, everything's electronic. It's a lot harder to find out.
It's up in there.
So you gotta live in the space a little bit, and not until you turn the heat on do you know there's issues with the heat. So in the beginning, when that first came on, there were a few rooms that was a problem. And then even when the contractor came in, they manually overrode the system to do some work, and they left that manual override on, so that some rooms really cooked, got overheated. So I don't know, Bill, how it's been operating recently, but I think all those issues have been addressed.
Well, and I think there's an education, like John's learned, through the process. He now can go right in and look it up, and he's troubleshooting it, and, it's a learning process.
And I did go in, one of the emails I read,
They wanted every room at 72 was the optimal, so I did a global, all rooms were 72 is the highest max. With the boiler working.
Right.
3 boilers.
There was that other little issue with a couple of the thermostats and the wall not being insulated, and they were addressing that at the same time.
136.
So, right, and that what was happening was the wall was an outside wall, and it was it was just a difference between what was being read and what was in the room, and again, it was just a matter of, and John's been right down there and monitoring it, and I think we've been really responsive and able to really level things out. Even in that situation, you were able to get the temperature back, you know,
I mean, we had to fake everything out. We told the room it was 90.
Right,
so it shut off,
right.
But it was only, 68 degrees.
Just until they came in and did the
Right.
fix.
And
So.
it was,
Yeah.
the thermostat on the wall said it was 58, 60 degrees, and the room was 90.
You had there was on the other opposite side of a vestibule, so the vestibule is the outside wall, it's colder, cold air is dropping down, that wall didn't go all the way up to the deck. They stuffed it with insulation and fixed that so that you're not getting cold air dropping onto the thermostat.
things you wouldn't know though until
Yeah,
we
the-
lived
until you
it.
The
actually-
system wasn't the problem, the building
To
was.
answer your question, every morning I log in and I look for a green screen. Green is optimal, between 68 and 72. If I see something that's way out in red, I kind of look at it and see what it is. And typically, it's just, temperature fluctuation. There was a bad thermostat, but for the last week, we've been pretty good.
You must have spent a lot of time over here.
If you have, are there outstanding punch list items, or are they
That's
just?
what we're talking about.
Yeah, I'm like finish, not quite there yet. If there are outstanding punch list items, is there a monetary value assigned to them to get them corrected, or we pay Fontaine and all these people all their money?
No, there's a monetary value associated with each.
I can't, I missed all your walkthroughs, so I needed to ask that question.
Yeah, no, we haven't paid them fully yet.
Okay. Is it the heating contractor, the issue we're really talking about, or is it the control contractor? Or what happened with the, when we had the thing, this thing's all balanced, we get that report, was that part of it, or?
We can go through it and talk about the balancing, but there was a trend information from the system that was sent to the engineer for review, so we're waiting for his response.
Okay, all right. I got my coat on, so it doesn't bother me.
Well, and I think the perfect example of that is like some of the nights the school committee is in here, the units programmed to go off at a certain time. And, nobody overrode it because, we put on the calendar the school committee was in here. We hadn't lived long enough to realize, the heat's off, and, so John went in and he took the calendar and he programmed it for all the meetings, so it's all set now, so it's little things like that, though, that
It's learning curve on our side too.
Yeah,
And I logged right in from my house and I got the heat up, but it was just really.
Are you the only one that knows how to do that? Who's the backup? for things like that? 'Cause you can't be the only one.
well, you're teaching Patrick, like Patrick's learning as well. And
I'm in the.
You don't
Know that stuff yet?
I'm gonna miss the talking to David to get in the computer, so I can log on quicker and get in the system easier. But I'm kind of the little one.
Well, I just think way back years ago, even when we had somebody else, it's like, that Ken wasn't here, then it's just like, what do we do?
The system's a lot more delicate now. You can change a lot on just doing that. You just have to kind of know what you're doing.
Did the air conditioning system run in the fall and have any problems with that? Was it controlled, was it run, or did it run at all?
No, I think the AC ran 99%.
Good. There was just tweaking of some vents, some little programming, setting, plus people here have to get used to, it's not a house. You can't have, a perfect 68 degrees or 70 degrees.
The windows open, a lot of the ACs are.
Right.
well, and doors are always opening.
Right, it fluctuates and, right.
Anything else on on that one? Okay. So the energy kiosk in the front lobby, so that was automated logic, the controls people. We had them kind of focus on getting the heating and air conditioning, all that other stuff working before really having them program and set that up. So, but that is installed now. It's just a matter of waiting for you guys to tell us when you're good for training.
I think there was an email today, and next Thursday is
Yeah, I
is
think
the
I put the
target
date in
date.
there somewhere.
Okay, fantastic. So there was a question about the schedule for exhaust fans in the bathrooms, and One of the issues is it was energy. You don't want to be exhausting all your heated air, your cooled air. So the way it was set up was that they were to go on periodically, and there was some modifications to change that. And so we're still reviewing that, whether there are some rooms that it's not sufficient. They have to run a little more often, or tying it into the occupancy sensor for the lighting, or on the time clock for the building. So when the building is occupied, it'll run. So there's some, and I think we just need the engineer to come out and verify the changes that they recommended actually are completed. The question you asked about the building being negative, Jim, so that's kind of, again, we're waiting on the trending information. Obviously, the exhaust fans running, even bathroom exhaust fans, it'll make a difference on how, whether the building is positive or negative. The last punch list item had to do with the 3 boilers, and that's what we talked about as far as just wanting to make sure before we have them make any changes that that you guys are okay with those changes. So that's the punch list. That's all that's remaining. We do have some warranty items that have come up. There was a roof leak, and it dripped on a door and delaminated the face of the door, so that door is being replaced. We anticipate that February 25th, the week of February 25th.
So we're today getting a no drawing.
Right. Yep.
There's a bathroom light that won't turn on, so a new light was ordered. We're anticipating that Griffin Electric will be out there, and actually for the next few are all Griffin items, between now and February 11th. So over the next week or so.
So I have, not to add to your list, but there's a few lights on that are attached to the outside of the building that are not on.
Fixed today.
Were they fixed? Okay.
They were actually on our list.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
I've never seen a list, so
Yeah.
I'm glad it's
No, it
not.
was on there, they just had to be ordered.
Okay.
And
Yeah, they were put in today.
Great.
Actually found one extra one that I didn't find. So we fixed that one.
Good.
There were some switches in the storage room that weren't labeled, and so they need to go around and label the different switches. But again, Griffin, when they come in to do the lighting that they're working on, they'll do that as well. The Duquesne phone system volume, there's still some troubleshooting on that, of trying to understand why the difference in volume on the speakers, depending upon how you access that system, whether it's through the handset in the phone or through the dedicated handset for that PA system. So they're still working, trying to figure that out. Fault light at what do I call it, UPS, uninterrupted power supply. So that's been repaired, and it's being sent back to be reinstalled. That was in a data closet. Again, a light switch, there was a question. It appeared that 2 light switches in the vestibule controlled the same light fixture. So having the electrician take a look at that. Generator, the weekly testing doesn't appear to be working.
correct. It's all set? Okay.
We were yesterday. So we went through it, put a time in, and they fixed out.
There's a piece of a linoleum. It seems to be a bubble, or it's lifting in the hallway.
Did you get a hold of Capital for that?
So that was my agenda
Oh,
for the floor.
yeah, yeah. For the warranty item, just to.
No, I did not. I can.
So there was a question whether the cooling system in the kitchen seemed to shut off or not. And we said that we would see over a long weekend. Sometimes these things are so efficient, they keep stuff cold that you come in the next morning, there's still ice in there, and that's not uncommon. So we said, see over a long weekend, see if it's,
Yeah, can we close out that cooling station? Is that all set? Remember you said it was staying cold? Is it staying on or
that was-
just holding it?
You're fine. You can close that one out.
there's a missing outlet cover plate.
From 46? Can you put a plate on that? The outlet cover?
146, I think, when the guys did, but I'll check that.
There's cover plates in attic stock.
Yep, I got those.
Parking lot lights we just talked about.
No, that's
You were
not-
gonna,
This is a little bit different. So the parking lot, John was gonna verify that.
oh, that they're not under the weekend.
Yeah, so he's gonna drive by and see.
Yeah, there is a system, they could log in, and it may be that they're programmed to be on, they have to turn them off. But we'll just have to, yeah, we'll just have to take a look.
And the next few are Lutron, just some lighting
Yes,
controls that are not functioning properly.
again, it's not just the system alone, without daylight harvesting and the amount coming down, tying in with occupancy sensor in the classroom, so the lighting controls there's always some touchy items that you need to go back and adjust, but they're planning to be out here again on the 11th. Projector in room 132.
So there was a ground loop that was ordered, they came today, was it, Bill, or yesterday?
I think it was today.
Today, okay. Do we know, okay, so tomorrow if the teacher's in there, we'll be able to see if they fix the problem.
Then there's some document cameras that were freezing up, and so they actually replaced a number of them. I think they replaced all of them.
Yep.
And even the new ones, there were some issues with them locking up, and they thought it had to do with the sensor picking up the reflection off of the whiteboard tray, the marker tray. And so that there's still, I guess, troubleshooting. There was a cover that supposedly came with them in the boxes, but that can't be located now, so I don't know, we'll have to work through that. Then there's a wall pad in the gym that they have to cut a hole in it. They put a pad right over where there's an electrical outlet, but they also have to anchor it so it actually stays to the wall. The reason they found the outlet to begin with is because the pad came off the wall, so. But that's it, that's the list.
The Meadow lawn reseeding is a longer-term item that obviously we have to wait for the seasons to work with. So beginning in March, everyone will be reconvened to assess what the process is going to be. So it's not just the no-mow meadow that did not establish correctly, but there are patches of lawn that were not ever fully established. So this is one that will go in, from March to June till we get a better sense that it's been corrected.
Yeah, if you remember, back in July, we had a lot of rain, which was great they planted grass, and I thought they were crazy, but it came in pretty good, but it was, young grass, it wasn't fully established, and also we got that August where it was very dry and hot and burned some of it too. So, we were fortunate to get something established, but, they'll have to come back and re-slice seed and overseed and address some of those areas.
Yep.
And can I ask, the drainage in the front of the building, I don't know if it's supposed to be that way or if we're comfortable with it, when there's a lot of rain and melting of snow?
You have silt sacks and
Slow it down. Silt sacks in the drains.
erosion control measures in the
Yeah.
catch basins until the grass is established, so those have to stay.
Okay.
So
So
it
is that
slows
what
the
the
water.
issue is?
It
Yeah, it just
the
slows
water.
it down. It's a fabric that's in there to catch all the dirt and silt and.
So it doesn't plug up,
Drainage system.
plug up the drain, the drain system.
They came and cleaned those a couple months ago, right? I think so.
We can't go by what you guys saw this past week with the rain.
Yeah.
The snow and the 60-degree weather.
Because that's everywhere.
There's no drain that's gonna take all that.
I think all of Granby was underwater.
A normal rainstorm, it'll flood up a little bit and it goes away.
Okay.
In East Long Meadow, the leaks
Oh, it's bad.
in the roof set off the fire alarm. So we evacuated during the rainstorm. We had to walk a quarter mile to the church next door, and a quarter mile back in the rain, through anywhere from a half inch to an inch of puddles, and climbed through a snowbank. So when people were complaining about.
So we were great here.
So Tim, going back to Jen's question, cost of these items, When you say warranty, first of all, let me try to clarify that. When you say warranty, does it mean that the cost is not on us? Or is there a different definition of warranty?
Warranty means it's not a punch list item, so if the work was done, it was accepted, and then maybe the linoleum started to bubble up or pop up in an area. So the contractor, you have a warranty with the contractor for a year, so John will call them, they'll come out, and they'll fix it at no cost.
At no cost, okay, so that's my understanding as well.
Yeah, so the punch list items, we do have a certain amount on certain, I think the schedule of values is like 30 pages long. So within those 30 pages, there are a few line items where we do have some funds that we're holding money for. I don't know what we're holding against Fontaine's contract at this point. I want to say it's maybe $130,000, does that sound right?
Yeah, right around.
So I think that's more than sufficient to cover this short outstanding list of items.
Thank you.
Can I ask a non-punch list question?
Sure.
So there's a lot of, and maybe, John, maybe you have some insight on this, there was a lot of conversation maybe a year ago, knowing that the project would come in under. What's the game plan with the remaining 2 million or whatever that turns out to be? Do you know?
No. Is it soon enough to say that it's clearly coming under?
Yes.
Chris had originally said, and I mean, I haven't really discussed anything with him in 8 months now, but that he wanted to pay down the debt. So
Right.
it didn't, so I don't know. So, but I mean, ultimately it's going to be up to the town meeting to decide where it goes.
Okay.
We didn't bond for those, we bonded for
Right.
those.
I don't think so.
I don't
No, there's
think
no
we
bond
did.
for it.
I don't think we ever got it. What I remember was that
I got some paperwork for you.
there was a possibility that we would spend more than what we originally had borrowed for. And that Chris was basically expecting that rather than borrow more money, which costs a fortune to go through the process of borrowing, that we would have money in stabilization funds to pay for any excesses over what it is we started with. So that could be what.
But anything under was not going to be bonded at all.
I think I remember that,
That's
right?
so that even if the project shows we're $2 million.
We don't have the 2 million that we never bonded. That's what I'm saying, it wasn't there that we have as extra money. It was-
So don't go
Chris's
spending
plan
it.
was to go back and ask for money from stabilization fund.
Thank you.
I have a question unrelated to the punch list as well. At one of the recent meetings, we talked about the curb in front of the building. Is there anything else that came up with that? It was
We didn't
holding traffic.
We voted against it, or voted to keep it in place.
No, so are we observing whether or not the situation is still the same? Because there was a reason why it came up and we discussed it. Is the problem still the same? Is it worse? Any observations?
It's problematic, but we're living with it. I mean, there's certain things, if it was voted that it wasn't gonna get changed, so we put 2 construction cones there, we probably have 2 or 3 people a day that drive over it. You know, there's a lot of traffic out there. There's a lot of... Well, there's a definition for that, but we won't bring that up here if you're doing the same thing every day. But there's a lot of car traffic every day. There's a lot of parents that drop their students off and pick their students up. And I don't think that was, we tried to anticipate that in the end, once we got a handle on that and a car count and things, and made some adjustments, made a lot of adjustments to have the car loops and things, to where we have it pretty manageable now. Every once in a while, there'll be a backup onto 202 for whatever reason, if somebody's seat belt is jammed, or, if there's something mishap somewhere along the line. But that does add a lot to it, the fact that cars have to stop well before that and cars have to stop after that. The other piece of it is plowing is very difficult. So every day, every time we have snow, which hasn't been much thankfully, but somebody has to go out and literally shovel that snow from those areas and carry it over to the other side of the parking lot so that we can get the cars close enough to that and people aren't walking through the snow. So it is problematic, and I think down the road, it might be something that is addressed through, the maintenance department or something like that. It's unfortunate that we weren't able to address it, and I think it would help dramatically with the flow of traffic out there. And I know there was a lot of, unfortunately I couldn't be at that meeting, but there was a lot of conversation about the original design, why it was designed that way, what it was meant for. And, we don't have a lot of people crossing, fortunately, during that time. We discourage people from getting out of their cars because it's just such an unsafe situation. So we, curbside only, cars pull up, we open the doors, we're out there, and, and it's, hurrah, good morning, yeah, okay, say bye, mom, close the door, and everybody goes away happy, But, and that's been a shift too, because over at West Street School, people just parked their cars all over the parking lot and everywhere else and walked up to the doors and said goodbye, or things like that. And it was a really dangerous situation. And in the afternoon, cars are backing out as people were walking. So this has been a shift. There's been a lot of learning involved, and that's one of the pieces. And the parents really have responded well to it. Parents and caregivers have responded well to it. That would be ideal. That would have been ideal if we could have gotten rid of that.
Is it theoretically too late for us to readdress that again?
Yeah, I will tell you, it is, my observation, it is very dense there in the morning for that 20-minute period. There's a lot of humanity going into a small,
The staff does an amazing job.
They do.
There's 5, 6, 7, 8 people out there opening doors, getting kids out of the car, and doing it curbside so that we're getting as safe as possible. That one piece is a little, bump in the road. It's a little something that just is difficult. And John, I don't know if you can speak to, getting it out, what it would look like, or I don't know what that looks like.
It would look just like the one over here if we were to do it.
It looked terrible.
It's just a straight curve and it'll have a sign.
But we've already voted this, so at this point, if someone's gonna do something for it, it wouldn't be part of the building committee.
No.
We've taken our action.
No, not necessarily.
Well, these contractors are all gone, we're gonna hire another contractor?
Well, that would be a reality, but like in terms of voting and that kind of stuff, it's not.
How handicapped people get in? Are they using it?
No, we put a ramp in. We put a little slope, just like out here.
Do the handicapped people use it as it is now?
We don't have a lot of handicap access.
Don't say don't have a lot.
But anyway, paying for it, that's
We don't have any.
You gotta honor them, no matter.
In terms
but we don't have
addressing
any
it
right
now,
now.
that ship has
Hey, you're
sailed.
fortunate, I'm handicapped.
Right, but it would still be a ramp. It would just be.
Flush, like here.
If that is gonna hold up you getting your final 8% or 5%, I wouldn't include it in the
Okay.
contract.
That's all I want to know.
We
I mean,
discussed putting it in one of my budgets.
if it's practically impossible, then I'm not going to worry about theoretically possible.
I'd say it would be better to address in a different.
Okay. The demolition we can do on our side, but the forming and everything, we'd have to hire out.
Okay.
And that might just be the conversation that the committee should have right now, is at least acknowledging that that's a possibility, that that'll happen, and it's not a surprise, that it's not meant to undermine anything or go against anything, but it's meant that, live and learn, and in order to keep the project moving and keep things going in the right direction. That's what.
But you said, Tim, we have to wait until everything's all closed out and, right, we shouldn't be doing it.
Handling it through the school building process is not going to work. So we'll have to be addressed a different way.
Yeah, and it might be best
To wait until we don't see you anymore.
We don't want to throw any monkey wrenches into things at this point. My only concern is actually do it. Whatever's in.
Right.
And like I said, we've been working with it, and John's been working with it, and
There's another issue, I think, some parents have spoken to me, and some bus drivers, I think they've already spoken to you about some unsafe situation out here where the buses are.
We wouldn't know anything about it.
not recently.
What would it, I guess? I mean, I can't picture this, but the buses pull up on the right over here, right? But then cars can be on the left of it, and the buses turn and go that way, but maybe there should be a stop sign there?
That's been addressed. They put up a yield sign for the cars this way. The cars coming off the 202, buses on the right away. And I observe that almost every day.
Officer White's been out there,
There's a yield sign right there now, and once the buses,
I don't.
yeah, right up here, once the buses are moving, all the parents wait.
Buses pull and go that way, right?
Correct.
And then cars can still be pulling in now?
No, they have a yield sign.
there's a yield sign that was put in. We asked the contractor to put it in, and when I leave every day, or I'm coming in, or going in and out, I haven't seen really any problems. The bus drivers in the very beginning had mentioned it. We put the yield sign in, and last time you had a complaint? I haven't had any complaints. And I watch them, and there's a stop sign going out to 202 where you can't cross the bus traffic, and coming in off of 202 is a yield sign to the buses. And parents are dropping off their kids, so, everybody has kids. Okay, look.
Yeah, there's probably just a learning curve that people had to understand, and bus drivers included, how it's supposed to operate, and now that people...
There was nothing there, so that's when we had a little bit of a problem.
So many parents have to put the kids up and sit. I guess we're gone too long.
At least 100, right?
Oh, more than that. It's probably close to 100 in the front for a pre-K, K1, and 2.
All in all, it's been working much better. I think the more years that we're here, easier.
Have there been any other, I don't know that you've heard any feedback in the community about any issues or anything good?
All good.
No? Okay. All right, good.
People don't go on Facebook.
Now it's the vocal minority that has something to say, I
I
guess,
do.
when you hear about it.
If you remember way back when, we selected an architect, and we made the right selection, I'm happy with you. And I want you to know that our building, which these people designed, has received an award from the local architecture society. for design.
Congratulations.
So I know we picked the right two folks.
Yay. Awesome.
Yeah, I love the building. I think you guys all done a great job. I love the design. It's very simple. It's
Thank you.
Thanks.
I think it's on the next
I
page.
also think it's
One more.
impressive how seamless the renovation that construction is.
Someplace there, it's right up there.
It was a concern that we had heard. It doesn't feel at all like it's two separate buildings. It's one new building. Every
great.
room, every tile, everything. So that's impressive.
We also thank you guys for keeping things on track and under budget.
Dealing with Bill, I mean, that's like,
Because I had people way back there saying, I've never seen a project that didn't go over budget, yada, 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 and all this kind of stuff. And I was like, well, you can't prove something that hasn't happened yet, so.
Yeah, I mean, things can go bad, but I think if you have enough eyes on it and kind of keeping it moving and meeting with you guys and keeping everybody informed of what the issues are, if we had any major problems, we would have addressed it and brought it to you, and, but, we were fortunate that we didn't hit anything, and we ended up with a good contractor. Has a lot to do with it. When you're going out for a low bid situation, you don't know who you're gonna get. You pre-qualify, but you still just don't know. So things just kind of fell into place. We did well.
Just regarding, I know there were some initial questions about, remember, the size of the gym, size of the basketball court. Is that issue been solved, and people using that gym on a regular basis?
It's not a high school gym.
We knew that.
You couldn't get it to be a high school gym. The high schoolers can't use it for games. GAA uses it for practice, and I think Ally has come over a couple times.
Yeah, the high school will use it as practice, in the afternoons when, and it's used every day. I mean, right now, it's used every day from, if the high school's not over here, then GAA comes in around 5, and it's used on the weekends sometimes, as well, and.
So it's being utilized a lot. It's just you can't have a game.
The high school.
High school game.
About the GA leagues, and
They can play
they're having games there?
Yeah,
We got here about 5:30, and they were practicing, and
To a certain age, then high school.
I mean, think about it, the hoop was right there.
I know, right?
Well, I always hope that we bring in, because historically, years when the kids were playing, the only gym they had was the high school. Now they have another one, so parents from other communities will come in and just think this is the only one, but now hopefully they're coming to see this gym here now. That Granby has stepped up and done the right thing. Even though high school can't play there, but,
They practice. I mean, hoops can go up to the height, it's just a length with that court.
I think the practice is all you can do, yeah. But
The concert's scheduled to be in there tomorrow night. Mr. Sargent, the new band director, is using it and it's all set up and is excited, and he's been working with the lights and become familiar with it, and the students have become familiar with it. The wall, that partition that was put up to keep that as the music space during the day in the gym, it's pretty, I mean, you can't really hear anything. If you're down on the floor and the band's up there playing, you might hear a little faint sound, but it really does its job. So that's worked out really well. You know, all the talk about that space, that was another company.
Yeah.
We had endless conversations about that, and it really has worked out really well. And you know, and being able to have, we've had, the high school has come over and used that for school assemblies during the day, because we pull the bleachers out and they can fit the whole school in there and have their presentations. And even that, it's seamless to have, it's amazing. I emailed Cheryl one day, and you know, we had the whole district in the building, you wouldn't know it. It was just, it was so quiet and everything, and you know, and when you talked about what happened, you know, out your way, we have the benefit now being on the same campus where the high school can walk over here, or we can walk over to the high school, and you know, it just has opened up so much more possibilities. And
has the town talked about doing town meetings in there? Because that was sort of a question through the process. Has that come up again?
Not through me.
Not through
It
you?
has through me, but
You don't want to?
it's going to be at the high school.
Or not, and it's not 100% my decision.
It's not my meeting.
It's not mine either, but we have everything.
Only because the building
We
is
have
requested.
no chairs here.
Right, remember that was
We have no chairs.
didn't fit in the FF and
And
budget.
400 chairs going
Back and forth
It's a
is
big expenditure.
a lot.
We only meet twice a year.
No, but we set up a lot over there.
You pull the bleachers out.
Yeah.
Bleachers are just pulled out.
They don't like that.
Who doesn't want that?
No, they don't have bleachers.
I
Oh, it'd be a lot easier if we could just, if we put in bleachers, I'd love it. But no, it's, we put up lights in the parking lot have been fixed. Next door, we put up an actual large spotlight. There's a complaint about it being dark, so that's all. 3 brand new lights are out there, so as of now,
Well, I just think the more you get the citizens in the building, this is a building, whatever it is.
Well, and I will
So
say.
they don't listen to things about, because there's an issue, they say we don't maintain our things, so we don't want that to be an issue. I assume the cleaning is going okay. In a short time too, we have enough help cleaning the building.
Actually, you know, one of the issues we had when we first opened the building wasn't per se, it was personnel issues. We had a couple people out on long-term leaves and things, and we're fully staffed now. And as we were walking through the building before the meeting, I was pointing out that it's never looked better. Because now we have the full crew and we have them rotating and they all have what they're supposed to do, and the floors are looking good, and really, you know, John and I take a walk through the building once a week at least together and look at things, and if there's any issues in between, we talk almost every day. But it looks amazing, and the students are really doing their job to keep it up as well, and with the technology, taking care of their Chromebooks, and you know, they're excited to be here, and they know this is their home, so everybody's doing their best to take care of it.
And getting rid of the snow, you losing hair
That's
over that?
another-
Has that been
That's-
worse than you thought?
that's
or-
my fault. Yeah, there's just, I mean, honestly, no place
There's
to
a-
put it.
I know, it's,
It's just, there's one wall and I can put it on, and that's it. So, I'm just gonna deal with it.
deal with it good.
But it's February 8th already, so.
Yes.
Yeah. It feels like it's March 9th. All right, is there anything else? Motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Okay, second?
Second?
Okay. All's in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.